So Deloitte celebrated its 40th anniversary in Papua New Guinea last year. So we are 41 years old, been committed to providing professional services to various businesses in PNG, private sector, public sector, international development agencies. So we've got a staff complement of about 120 staff, and we've got three main domains that we service. Our traditional audit and tax businesses, and our very exciting consulting business. I guess our consulting business is probably the largest consulting business in PNG. The bedrock of that is a technology practice, risk practice, and a general consulting practice that covers areas like public sector, finance management, risk advisory, strategy, and turnaround. And our tax practice is probably the largest practice to the resources sector, mining and petroleum. And our audit practice complements the three practices.
So, coming towards the end of 2024, how would you describe the year that Deloitte has had in PNG this year? Some people are telling us they've had a tough year, some people are saying they've had a good year. How's it been for Deloitte?
For us, 2024 has been really a breakthrough year. So we've had sort of significant growth compared to our results last year. And if I was to tell you the numbers, you wouldn't believe me, but we're talking high 20s in terms of percentage growth compared to the prior year. And when we set our budget, we work on a May to June year end. So when we set our budget in round about April this year, we weren't sure about the economy. Obviously, we were waiting on announcements, in particular around some of the key resource projects, and that was going to fuel our growth. But we've been fortunate enough in terms of the areas we've chosen to play. Obviously, we've seen a lot of investment go into the financial services sector in terms of technology, and that's where we've chosen to play, and that's where we're seeing most of our growth for this financial year.
And is that mostly financial institutions retooling, getting ready for growth? I noticed a few of them seem to be investing in ERP systems and core banking systems. Is that the area that you're seeing the most change in?
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think the addition of two new players to the commercial banking sector has also been a breath of fresh air to the financial services sector and for professional services firms like ours. Your traditional commercial banks are investing in new technologies as well. So we've got the new players who are coming in, who are focusing on digital channels, and then you've got the traditional players, obviously, who also don't want to miss out on the opportunities that are presenting themselves. So the culmination of that is significant investment in the financial services sector.
I don't want to ask you any particulars about your clients, that would be inappropriate, but generally speaking, you would have had exposure to a lot of audit work and a lot of accounting work for your major clients. How are their books looking at the end of 2024? Have you seen resilience in the business community, or are there some evidence of stress in the economy?
I think what's distinguishing the clients that are really doing well is their strategy towards customers. I think those clients that are able to withstand the shocks together with their customers, we're seeing they're performing well, providing that ongoing support. So it's not really about a sector, but what I see is where they've got those long-term customer relationships and being able to weather the storm, providing opportunities as some of the customers are facing significant headwinds. That's also resulting in them getting good revenue growth and having that flow to the bottom line.
So, someone this week described PNG's business community as resilient as a quality. Would you agree with that observation, with that analysis?
I think our resilience is about to be tested.
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely something that as a business in PNG, you need to have, you need to be in there for the long play, and you need to play the long game, as if I was to take a sporting analogy. And we're getting to the end of the calendar year, and one of the things that will gain traction in the new year is this potential grey listing of PNG.
Yes.
And it will really, challenge the financial sector. It will really challenge the foreign investor who wants to enter PNG for the first time. And what it does is, it unfortunately increases the risk premium for PNG as a country if you're a foreign investor and wanting to invest in PNG. And we've seen in other economies where they've been grey listed that GDP is impacted between 3 and 7%. So the risk premium on PNG rises, and if you're one of those investors just wants to come in for one project, then you might think twice. But obviously if you're a long-term investor, you know the potential in the country, then you might otherwise make a different decision.
So just to drill down on that topic a little bit more, and I read the report that came out last
Yep.
week from the international body that's been looking at PNG's financial system. Can you give me a couple of examples of the kind of things that would be harder to do if PNG gets grey listed?
Yeah, so if you go back 10 years ago when PNG was grey listed and got off the grey list, some of the things that happened at the time was that there was some correspondent banks that decided to cut ties with PNG. So obviously it made it very difficult for financing or just normal payments to happen between jurisdictions. And I think as a country, some of the foreign missions actually struggled to get paid as a result of that. So it increases the risk premium for investors. And what it also does, it means that additional compliance requirements are placed on financial institutions. There's more forms to tick, there's more checks to do, and that increases the cost of delivering financial services in PNG. In a country where there's a significant population that is unbanked, that's not where you want to go. You don't want to increase the cost of financial services because it disincentivizes the banks to invest in more. But like you said, we are a resilient country. I wouldn't be surprised if some of those costs get passed on to customers as banks try to protect their bottom line. At the end of the day, they also want to deliver value to their shareholders. So it's not a cost that's sustainable for them to just absorb and not pass on to the consumer. So there's potential for the cost of doing business in PNG to even go higher as a result of this grey listing.
My understanding is that there is a period where PNG has an opportunity to mitigate some of the issues that the report has raised. How likely is that mitigation to occur? What chance has PNG got of avoiding that grey listing? So
PNG has got up until I think early 2026 to implement certain recommendations. We're already at the Christmas mark, and we know that things start to slow down. So really the rubber will probably hit the road come Feb next year. I'll leave you with the statistics, and then I'll let you make your own determination as to how likely PNG will come out of that. Obviously, FATF, this is not their first evaluation that they've done. They've done mutual evaluation reviews around the globe. So 60 similar scenarios similar to PNG have eventuated, where they give countries a set of recommendations that they have to implement over a certain period. Of those 60 scenarios, only one didn't result in a grey listing, and that was actually on a technicality as opposed to addressing the recommendations. So it's an uphill task for PNG. I'm not saying we can't be that one country that turns the tide around, but it's a significant challenge and something that the government and the private sector have to address head on.
To your thinking, what are the 2 or 3 key things that need to happen between now and beginning of 2026?
I think it's increasing the capacity and capability in some of the public institutions that deal with the confiscation of AML proceeds and prosecution of potential offenders. If there's investment, if there's funds allocated to those institutions, then I think PNG might be on a path. But that will also require, in my view, I think, the international donor community or some of our friends of PNG to lean in and assist the country to tackle those challenges head on, because they've got more sophisticated financial systems than us.
So you're looking at an ICAC, you're looking at police, prosecution, judicial system.
That's right.
Those areas.
Those areas, that's correct.
Right. Which are within the gift of government, I guess.
Correct.
So the onus is on the government to perform. Is there anything the private sector can do to improve the situation as well?
I think private sector plays a role in terms of agitating change and being open
Yes.
and honest with those in power.
Yeah.
I think that's a critical role that the private sector will need to play in as part of this process.
So that's, as you said, that's something that's looming quite soon in PNG's future. PNG's environment is already reasonably difficult to navigate for some business at the moment with Forex and so forth. What do you see the outlook being for next year based on what you're hearing from your own clients?
I think, we were at a conference last week where we had the IMF speak to a group of accountants. Yeah. And one of the things that the IMF sees as the turning point for PNG in terms of breaking the trend financially is having FDI flow into the country. Yes. At the moment, the Kina is crawling, I guess, the crawling depreciation, not a devaluation. And that can only be stopped if there's foreign direct investment coming into the country. Now, I know there's a few projects that are on the horizon. I think Exxon has announced that Angore, there's some investment that's happening there. But I think the country requires a big project like a Papua LNG or Wafi Golpu, and to have some significant inflows come into the country. I think Forex, together with law and order, are probably the two biggest challenges that businesses are facing. And from what we hear from our clients, obviously law and order issues, that has just raised the cost of doing business in PNG. And then obviously the foreign currency issue has improved, but still one of the biggest challenges and impediments in terms of the country going forward.
You talked about your services offering in the market, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the kind of work you're doing at the moment, and maybe how also you've skilled up to help the country address some of the issues like technology and so forth.
Yep.
These are obviously opportunities where the economy can become more efficient, individual businesses can become more efficient. So what's your take on what the current situation is, but more looking forward, what is the opportunity?
Yeah, so I think for us, we've really looked at, what's our core strength as an organization. Yeah. And, Deloitte being the largest global professional services firm, we're a business that really invests in technology. So we are using technology to really become more efficient in terms of delivery of our services, but also at the same time providing advice to our clients.
Yes.
So for example, we've built an AI platform called My Assist that is helping our practitioners become more efficient in terms of the way they do research, in terms of the way they approach problems and give solutions to clients. So you might say, is it a new service? But it's actually an innovative way of doing business.
Right.
And that's delivering significant efficiencies in terms of our teams getting to the right answer in a much quicker manner, meaning we can actually do more work with the same sort of head count.
So is it a diagnostic tool, or how does it? What's its function within the?
I'll give you an example. For example, we've been reviewing the various versions of the Income Tax Act. There's been 15, and we're hoping that one will be passed.
Yes.
Probably this week. So every time there's a new version that comes in, we have to analyze the changes and be able to provide comments very quickly.
Yes.
So with our platform, you can drop in the two documents. You can just click on attach, drop the two documents in. It'll give you a good summary of what the changes are. That way we are able to respond much quicker to potential issues or provide sort of value to our clients, and even provide feedback to Treasury in terms of some of the things that we're seeing as they're going through this rewrite process.
I get it. So the power of AI.
The power of AI and the power of technology. That's right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We're doing our innovation conference next
year,
year,
yeah.
and AI will be one of the themes of that. So really
Yep.
interested to hear that it's already being deployed.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
In a PNG context. I guess the other thing is just the observations you might have about how PNG is embracing digitisation. Obviously, there's an enormous opportunity there. We have a digital government strategy.
Yep.
We have an additional telco that's arrived in the market in the last couple of years, and some evidence that there's greater connectivity rolling out around the country. What opportunities does that present for business in your view?
I think the agenda that government is driving, and I think the Department of ICT together with key stakeholders like Dataco and KCH, they're leaning into technology and reimagining what government services need to be, and that's something that we fully support. I think a digital government will mean that services are provided in an efficient manner, would mean that services are provided more securely, and that is a good plus for businesses wanting to enter PNG. So just by digitizing government and streamlining the way they do things is a good indicator for businesses that want to sort of come and invest in PNG. I also think competition is good for any economy. You see some of the latency in some of the state-owned enterprises because they're running monopolies, but when you introduce new players to the system, it encourages innovation. We've seen costs for telecoms come down. We've seen improved performance in the way telecommunication services. And I think in your own survey, Andrew, telecoms has actually come down in terms of the list. But there are further opportunities. Starlink is a big question mark. Is it going to come to PNG or is it not? Yeah. But we've seen it open up economies like in the Pacific in particular, in Fiji and in Tonga. Mm-hmm. So I think it's definitely the right path that the government is taking in terms of digitizing services and leaning into some of these new technologies that are out there.
You touched on the Income Tax Act, and of course we're sitting here a few days before the budget, so no one knows for sure what's going to be in that budget. But I'm interested in the fiscal regime that the government is running and how that affects business, particularly with its tax and so forth. What kind of reforms are you expecting to see over the coming 12 months as far as the tax system in particular and how it affects business? Yeah,
so I think there are a couple of things in regards to that. Whilst the new income tax is a significant rewrite, a lot of the provisions that it's taking forward will not be new to businesses. I think it's providing a platform where it'll make administration more efficient and effective for the IRC, and therefore reduces ambiguity in terms of how businesses will interpret certain provisions of the Income Tax Act. I also understand that the IRC is also embarking on a digital journey as well, which is something that we've also been advocating, something that we truly think will be a game changer for the way tax is administered in PNG. And at the end of the day, the Act aims to ensure that every taxpayer pays the right amount of tax, that there are no particular sectors or no particular entities that are disadvantaged compared to others, that everyone comes to the table and there's transparency in terms of how tax is being levied across different companies. So I think it's heading in the right direction.